Hey everyone, welcome back to another quick tutorial. Continuing with the cabin build, we're going to be learning how to unwrap today. So I'm going to go ahead and select this edge in the UV editing mode inside of Blender. I'm going to select the whole border edge on this side, because what we're going to be doing is unwrapping it like the net of a shape. If you've ever seen like a cereal box and like you unfold it, you can always sort of see the edges and like how you would fold it back together to make a 3D object. That's essentially what we're doing here, but in reverse. We're like choosing the shapes, we're choosing the sides where everything would unfold. You can see here I'm doing the two ends. We've got the one side down we've got the one seam down the side. I'm going to go ahead and change this one up just so it's a bit wider on the front face. Going around the little cutouts that I've made, just so that it's a bit of a more even UV shape. Once you've selected all of them, you want to mark them as seams. And I'm going to go ahead and select the whole object and click unwrap. You can see here at the top we have a bit of stretching displayed by that light blue section. Now I think this is the front, so I think it's this little indent here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just swap the direction of the seam here. And okay, so it wasn't that bit. It appears that that was the other side. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is undo that. And I'm going to go to the other side. And instead of having these two marked, I'm going to mark the other side. This should hopefully reduce the stretching. Which, yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can see it's reduced the stretching quite a lot. You can see here I've already done the unwrap for the rest of the roof. So I'm going to go ahead and click Ctrl J and join them all together. I'm going to press A to select all and unwrap again. You see here now they're all on the same UV sheet. I'm going to click A to select all of the ones in the UV editor. I'm going to go down to average island size, and then I'm going to go down to pack islands. I'm going to remove the rotate. I don't want to give Blender that control, and then I'm going to pack them with a margin of 0.001. This allows them to not be touching and no textures will overlap when applying textures to them inside of Substance Painter. Next, I'm going to go ahead and click FBX. You can't see it here, but I'm making sure it's only the selected objects that are being exported. Now that I've exported the low poly version, I'm going to go ahead and apply my bevel modifier so that we have a higher poly version. Jump into Substance Painter now, which you can see we've imported the roof in already with a texture set size of 2048. We're going to go to the baking menu, click like the little croissant emoji. You want to go ahead and make sure your output size is 2048, which it should be already. From here, you want to go down to the high poly parameters and pull in the high definition mesh, which is the version of the mesh with the bevel modifier applied. You can see here it's now overlapping it. However, there's quite a big overlap, so what we're going to go ahead and do is decrease the max frontal distance until it's just barely on top of it. You can see there it's very slightly on it, even less, slightly less. Just make sure that you don't get any of this redness. There we go. Once that's done, you want to go ahead and click Bake Selected Textures. You can even lower the radio distance if you want. You see there it's applying it all for us. This just adds a bit of extra detail when applying the textures. You can see here it has all been applied. So if we go ahead and get the stylized wood texture from here, we're going to go ahead and plop that on there. See there, it is now applied to the whole model. It looks quite nice. However, we can finish it here, however that would just be the base texture, so we're going to increase the tiling just to make it a bit more appropriate scale. Now this could be what you want as the finalized product, however I'm going to go a bit further and make the material a bit more of my own. So we're going to go ahead and add a generator. Fortunately you can't see the generator menu, but it's the curvature menu. You can see here this has made it look really weird and quite glossy. So what we're going to do instead is You see here, like, you've got the black, which is like the main color, and then you've got the white, which is like the highlight color. That's based on the curvature map that we baked on. I'm going to go ahead and disable roughness, normal, and color. At this point, I am trying to remember how to do this. However, I do realize my mistake eventually, and what that is I need to add a different layer underneath this and change this to paste. So you can see that I've copied and pasted it. Changing the hierarchy there. While I figure this out, I'm just going to cut ahead until I actually cut out, rather than saving you the time of watching me figure this out. What I haven't done is delete the other one and the generator itself, creating a new fill layer of just a base sort of like grey colour. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a black mask. Then I'm adding the generator to the black mask, and then applying the curvature. And you see there, looks a bit more like it should now. However, we're going to turn up the global blur, mess around with all these sort of settings. See there, now the edge highlight looks like it's supposed to. Just going to tweak the settings a little bit. Now, you most likely don't want like the ends to be fully white. However, if you do, that's fine. You can see I'm just tweaking it to change it a little bit. Now, a lot of this is just finite messing with the settings and seeing what you like the look of most, so a lot of this will be quite slow. I'll try and speed it up for the video, but from here, you would want to add the material to the greyness, rather than just having it as a flat colour. The flat colour would more likely be used for dust, which you will see in a little bit. There you are, and we can see now I'm going to add the stylized wood texture into just on top of where that little grey texture is. And we're going to change the wood colour to be slightly, maybe lighter, I think. You can see it changing there. For future of these videos, I'm going to probably include the other windows, since I'm noticing now that a lot of them don't appear. But all that happens is a little colour menu pops up. You see there, now we have a nice little edge highlight on there. You can even change the contrast and everything like that. Like you can have small, large, and medium with like the levels. You see how like that changes how harsh it is, and like you've got the small, large, medium, and then the huge ones. Just different settings and how you want to do them. You can tweak them however you like. Another thing you can do, just to check the curvature and how different it is, you can actually alt select the black mask itself and see the curvature lines and how it affects it. You can see here it's got different levels, so like the white is where the edge highlight would be, and then you have the regular colour scheme there as well. You'd also go ahead and like select the other one and change, like add effects to the original one. Like you can change the saturation of the wood, which I'm going to tweak slightly using levels. Like you desaturate slightly, just to match the reference image from last time. You see there, it's starting to look a bit more weathered and less clean. Like it's been sat there for like quite a while. If I'd slept too much, all the colour disappears. So you only want to really do it like 0.02 amount or something like that. See there, there's the curvature map again. Next we're going to go down here to the use texture thing inside of the curvature, and we're going to add a little bit of variation to those edges so they're not as smooth. You can see here now that I've done use texture. You want to go down here to where the texture image input is and select something like a noise texture or a grunge map. I'm going to use a grunge map, however, you can use whichever one you want. Unfortunately, I'm trying to show you it here, but I've completely forgotten that the window doesn't open. All it is a bunch of different grunge maps and noise maps that you can apply to the edges. Now that will affect the smoothness of those edges. So if I zoom in, you can see there it's still quite smooth, but if I go up here to texture quality, it'll change it and make it a lot more uneven. See there, if I invert the thing, texture quality, you see there it really starts to affect it properly and adds sort of weathering effect to it. See here, we've got a bit more of a strong effect to there now. Now you can mess with the height or roughness or anything like that on this as well, since it's all done in layers. I'm going to disable the height and the normal. What I'm doing here is trying to get rid of that grainy sort of look on the edges of them, because I didn't really like that. Going back into the curvature map, I'm going to swap the image texture, I think, or change the contrast, sorry. And just increase the scale quite a bit. You can even change the opacity so it's less in your face. Doing global invert, you can see that like it would affect the whole thing. However, we're going to keep to having it on the normal instead of inverted. See there, we're getting some quite nice highlights with a bit of blur as well. Now if we go back to the stylized wood and select on there, then we're just going to change this to a bit of a lighter colour, just like before. There we go. Now what I want to do is have this be the stylized wood texture instead, so we're going to drag it onto the base colour there. There we go, you can see that now it looks a lot more like it should. A lot more subtle and less of that grainy look. But we still need to change the colours so that there's a bit of contrast in between the two different layers. You see there, it's now got that nice sort of little blend between being a different colour while still retaining the same texture. Moving on, we're going to add a new fill layer. We're going to call this one Dust. We're going to search for a grunge map or some kind of dust. And you want to go to the generators. And you can see here we've got a bunch of different options we can choose from. I'm just going to drag that on. I'm going to invert it. And we're also going to have to go into the mask settings. Now what I forgot to do was add a black mask and then drag it onto there. Now you can see we've got that nice little faded effect there. And if I invert it and then go to pass through, which is what that layer has now just been changed to, you can see there with the PTH. And we're going to go into the mask editor, and you can see there that the inside the rungs has not really been lit up. So if we increase the global balance and increase the blur just a little bit, you can see there the underside isn't really being affected as much. So we're going to try a different dust map. I'm going to try this one instead. Now here I'm just trying to see it affect the I'm trying to see it affect the main area. Continuing on, we now have a bit of the underside being affected. However, what we really want is those inside faces of the rungs to be dusty while the main pillars remain as they are. You see there we have sort of what we're going for, however, like, it's still a lot more heavy on the pillars. Should go down and only enable roughness. You see there, slight changes. However, unfortunately, what my mistake here is I can't see the change in roughness because I have base color enabled, not material as a whole enabled. We'll realize that shortly. So yeah, I'm just messing with the global balance, the contrast, everything like that. Then we go ahead and skip ahead until I'm happy with what I've got. Changing the dust map to a dust occlusion map, which you can see now is affecting more of the sort of inside area of those pillars and rungs of the roof. If you tweak a few more settings just before we get ready to export the textures. See that I'm zooming in real close just to see the difference in contrast. You can spend as long as you want or as little time as you want messing with the settings, however, I really want to get it looking as closely to the reference as possible, so I'm going to keep messing with these until I'm happy to export. Now we're going to go ahead and go to File, Export, Textures. I'm going to File, Export Textures, and I'm going to swap the window over now. See there, I'm going to change the output directory just to wherever you want. You can set it to a file that you have saved near where you want it to be imported into. You're going to change the settings to the Blender Principal BDSF, copy it, and then we're going to remove some of the maps that it exports since we don't really need all of them. We'll just call it something like Simple BNR for base color. The roughness, metallic, and normal. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of the emission and the alpha, as well as the displacement. You see now we're just going to export only those four. You're going to select the simplified one in this little drop down menu here. File output type, just based on the output template, which in our case is the PNG. Texture set size, you can set to 2048 or you can just leave it as the texture set size, which should by default be 2048. Depending on what you started in. Here I am just selecting where I want it to be outputted to. There you go, you can see it's now changed. And we're going to go to export, wait for it to finish, and you see it on the side. There's our little exported textures, and we're going to hop back into Blender and add these back in. Blender now, you can see we've still got the UV texture grid applied as our material, so we're going to go ahead and remove the UV test. We're going to add a new material. Call it something like wooden roof or something. I'm going to call it wooden roof beams. Now we're going to go ahead and go to the shading panel. Press Control T with the Node Wrangler add-on enabled. If you don't know how to enable it, just go up to Edit tab in the top left, near the Blender logo in the very top left, and click Preferences and go to Add-ons. I'm now importing the base color to be attached to the vector little attachment there, as well as the base color on the other side. Now if you go and press Shift D, you can copy that and then change the file to be I think roughness was next. Nope, we've done the metallic one instead. Now important with the metallic one, you want to change the sRGB value you want to change that to non-color. And then you plug the color into metallic. And then you repeat this for the roughness. Oh, we've done the normal first, that's fine. So you change this to non-color, there's an extra step for this one. Rather than just do that, you have to actually add a normal map node. You just add that by searching for normal map. And you want the strength one, normal. Oh, I've plugged it into the alpha there, which is a mistake. So what you actually want to do, you can ignore the settings here, this is just me not realising that I've done it as the an alpha. Instead you want to go ahead and plug it into the normal node there instead. Now everything looks fine. And then finally we're going to add the roughness. Again, non-color, vector, and color into the roughness. And there you are. See now it looks nice in there. You see that it's affected there. Go into rendered, it's pretty dark because you can't see anything because there's no light in the scene. If I go ahead and add a quick light, let's just use a sunlight for example, and go back into rendered, point it at like there, maybe increase the strength of the light a bit. You see those different areas where the light is affected from the roughness tab that we added inside of Substance Painter. It just allows the light to reflect off a bit better. That's going to do it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.